Hello, good evening and welcome to the program. I'm Nadim Majid. Well, since we last met, there are a lot of important events that have transpired in this country, from the iconic swearing in of the Chief Minister of the Northern Province to, of course, the violence that unfolded recently in Mathura. Dr. Dayan, Jayatilleka, welcome back to Vantage Point. As always, it's a pleasure having you with us. Dr. Jayatilleka, now you had the opportunity to be present at the swearing in of the new Chief Minister of the Northern Province, Mr. C.V. Vigneswaran. What significance do you see of the fact that the Tamil National Alliance actually decided for the Chief Minister to take oaths before the President of the nation?
Nadim, there was quite a bit of controversy over this. The hawks on both sides had their own views on the swearing in. In the south, it was felt and said in some quarters that the Chief Minister should merely be sworn in before the Governor, former military man, Mr. General Chandrasekhar. Now, their point, the point of view of the Southern Hawks was, don't make a big deal of it. Why does this guy need to swear before the President? Who does he think he is? Let him show him his place. Let him swear in before the Governor. And the Hawks in the north said, swearing before the President? Is that what we were voted in for? Isn't he a war criminal? Should you do this? Don't do it at all. Swearing before anybody else. Now, the TNA leadership, as well as the leadership of the government in the form of the President, they did the right thing. They did the right thing, because there was a precedent when Varadarajah Perumal, the first Chief Minister of the then Northeastern Provincial Council, was sworn in. He was sworn in by President Jayawardena at the President's house in the fort. I remember because I was there. So it was the right thing for Justice Vigneswaran to be sworn in by President Rajapaksa, notwithstanding what the Southern and Northern Hawks were saying. It was also politically the right message to send. So the TNA leadership, which deliberated on this, made the right move in meeting with, I believe, the President's secretary, and the two sides decided that it would be in Colombo. It's not that the President would travel to Jaffna, which had been a suggestion that was floated. It would be in Colombo, it would be at Temple Trees, and Justice Vigneswaran would be sworn in by the President of Sri Lanka. I thought the symbolism was very important, and it was the right move for the pragmatists, if not the moderates, on both sides to make.
You say that it was the right move for the moderates to make on both sides, but we have seen a lot of opposition, not only in the Northern Province itself and within the TNA itself, and also from members of the diaspora, these various movements from the diaspora, which have harshly criticized retired Justice Vigneswaran for being sworn in before the President. So therefore, even though for the pragmatists and the moderates it was a right move, politically, was it a right move for Sambandhan, Sumandiran, Vigneswaran?
Oh, I think it was. It was a very good opening move, or an opening gambit, because they sent a signal that they were ready and willing to work with the President, that they recognized him as the legitimate leader of the country, that they were willing to work within the framework of the Constitution and United Sri Lanka. They also sent a signal when they were there, and in what they said before, during and after, that they were not willing to live under anybody. Live with, yes, and within, yes. Under, no. So it was.
So basically, what they were saying was that they're prepared to be stakeholders in a united Sri Lanka.
Correct. Not second-class citizens. So I think they made the right initial move, and I think that the President responded in the right way. Now, yes, there has been criticism. I've noticed the JHU, the NFF in the South, maintaining a an increasingly shrill critique of Chief Minister Vigneswaran and the NPC. But it's also significant, Nadeem, that the southern extremists did not get a single seat during the recent round of provincial council elections. So they've been marginalized, they've been rejected by the majority of the south, of the Sinhalese. I think the bulk of the electorate has shifted or has remained moderately patriotic, while the southern extremists have been politically marginalized for the moment. They've taken a heavy hit. They didn't want the provincial council system. They didn't want elections under the 13th Amendment. They wanted the 13th Amendment revised and drastically pruned. None of that happened. And they didn't even want Justice Vigneswaran sworn in by anyone other than the governor. Now, the southern extremists or chauvinists have taken a hit. In the north,
they're still making themselves heard.
Oh yes, they'll keep pushing. They will keep pushing. It's not over. It's just begun. They will keep pushing against the Northern Provincial Council. Now, things are more visible in the north. It's not merely the diaspora or elements in the diaspora that have been critical of
this
the
move.
NPC. It's from within. Anandi Sasidharan, the lady who scored the second highest number of preference votes, she was quite vocally critical of the swearing in before the president. She's actually been quoted by Jason Burke, a foreign reporter, as saying that when the Tigers were around, we had a very beautiful country. And she's not talking about the natural beauty of the island of Sri Lanka. So I was also struck by the fact that when she did take votes before Justice Vigneswaran and the President Mr. Sambandhan a few days ago, she was resplendent in the colors of the LTT flag, red and yellow, which is not the color of the TNA, or certainly not the colors that Vigneswaran and Sambandhan were clad in. So you have criticism from within the ranks of the TNA, from within the Northern Provincial Council, that the leadership is too moderate, too ready to cooperate with Colombo.
The critics within the TNA, like Sasidhar and like others, several others, do you think that they will be able to mobilize some support for themselves and erode support for the parliamentary group leader, Mr. Sambandhan, for Chief Minister Justice Vigneswaran? And if that happens, if there is an erosion in support for the moderates within the Tamil National Alliance, where do you see it proceeding from there?
Well, right now, Mr. Vigneswaran and Mr. Sambandhan are on top, because Mr. Vigneswaran scored 132,000 plus preference votes, which, when taken as a percentage, is in fact even more dramatically significant than the Asari's splendid 300,000 votes. So Vigneswaran has the moral authority right now. So also Mr. Sambandhan. But it can go wrong. And it can go wrong if the government of Sri Lanka either marginalizes or neglects its relationship with the Northern Provincial Council. You would recall the fate of Yasser Arafat within the Palestinian movement. I mean, Arafat was the peacemaker, but he was increasingly marginalized by the Israelis themselves. And the result of the marginalization of Arafat and of Fatah
was the emergence of Hamas. A much more hardline group.
Exactly. But of course, if you're the Israelis, there was a certain logic. They wanted to be able to say, look, we don't have a peace partner. And look at these guys, Hamas. Now that's not going to work in the Sri Lankan case, because all eyes are on Sri Lanka, and if the government is seen as being too Scrooge-like in the devolution of power, then the undermining of the moderates will redound to the benefit of the Tamil radicals in the north and in Tamil Nadu and in the diaspora.